Project Search.
Hi, this is Danny, as you can tell, and today I'm going to start a series of discussions about our nonverbal communication and specifically how it's involved in social cues. So we'll be talking about how we can make sure that we are following social cues, picking up on them, interpreting them um, accurately, and how that affects your outcomes at work. I have a presentation for today. It's going to be an overview of 4 different topics within that larger theme of social cues. Let's get started. Understanding social cues in the workplace. The importance of nonverbal communication on the path to a great job. We will discuss facial expressions, body language, voice tone, and personal space. When you enter the workplace, it's important to listen to what others say. Your supervisor and coworkers will communicate important things with words such as instructions and expectations. However, the words you hear are not the only things you will need to understand. Today, we will focus on 4 things that are important for you to keep in mind at your internship sites, as well as at the paying jobs you begin in the future. Those things are facial expressions, body language, voice tone, and personal space. Let's take a closer look at each of these important aspects of nonverbal communication. All 4 can provide us with important social cues. First, let's think about facial expressions. Our facial expressions tell others the way we feel. When we smile, we are happy. Frown when we are sad, and grimace when we don't like something. And that's just the beginning. So, let's think. So I'm going to ask some questions that I want everyone to think about so that when we get together for discussion time, you'll have some thoughts ready to go to share. What other emotions do we express with facial expressions? So try to come up with a few other ideas about types of facial expressions that we might use in order to express our emotions. And then think about why is it important to understand facial expressions in the workplace? So keep those 2 questions in mind for our discussion. Let's think about body language. Body language expresses emotion and attitude. If you feel tired, you might slump your shoulders. When you're unsure what to do, you might shrug. If you're excited about something, you might gesture with your arms when you talk about it. So let's think. Again, here's some questions that I need everyone to think about so that you'll be ready to discuss these things when we get together. What other emotions and attitudes might be revealed by your body language? Think about all the things, all the different postures you can assume, the things you can do with your arms, with your head, with your legs, all of it. And why is it important to be aware of your body language at work? So those are your 2 questions to consider before we get together. Next, let's think about voice tone. The tone of your voice is just as important as the words you say. Often, it's not what you say, but how you say it. If you use a bright tone when you greet a coworker, you'll probably get a friendly response. If you greet your coworker with a harsh or gruff tone, they might not want to interact with you. So let's think. Here are our questions that we're going to get into when we get together. What tone of voice should you try to avoid in the workplace? So that's one to think about. What tone of voice to avoid? We'll get into that in our discussion. And also, what tone of voice do you prefer to hear when you listen to your peers? Okay, so those will be our things to discuss. Let's think about personal space. So everyone has an invisible boundary around their body that they consider their personal space. If you cross the boundary into someone's personal space, you might make them uncomfortable. Let's think. Again, here are our questions I want everyone thinking about before we get together so that we can all have some thoughts ready to go. Has anyone ever gotten too close to you? How did that make you feel? So really think back on this one to times when maybe this has happened to you. And then what might happen if you repeatedly cross into coworkers' personal space? Think about that one carefully and the things that you think might happen as a result. So, conclusion. Facial expressions, body language, voice tone, and personal space are all very important things to understand in order to be as successful as possible in the workplace. Over the next several days, we will discuss each in more detail, and we will practice them together. So get ready for practice. As I said in the presentation, those questions back there on the slides, those will be our points for discussion when we get together to review this material. And as I said, as the week goes along, we're going to take a closer look at each of the items in there. And we're going to practice the skills, definitely practice the skills, and make sure that everyone understands how important each of those things can be and the effect they can have on your success in the workplace. All right, well, goodbye.